What's going on, guys? Happy Halloween and welcome to the Week 9 NFL Thursday Night Showdown breakdown here on Sharp Sports Network. I'm your host, Joe Bewer, and I'm going to be breaking down this Thursday Night Showdown slate between the San Francisco 49ers and the Arizona Cardinals. Before we do that, just want to do a quick recap of Monday night where we had Deontay Johnson at captain on that showdown slate. Absolutely obliterated everybody. I'm looking to continue that over into this showdown slate here today. I think we have a lot of edge to be had. And we're really ready to dive into that. So I got two quick things to say before we jump into that. I'm going to bring you over to the Sharp Sports Network website where you can go ahead and view some of our apparel. We have a lot of apparel options over here. Would appreciate it if you would go ahead and snag a piece of apparel. It would really help us out. We work really hard on those, so that would be incredible. Next thing here is I want to bring you over to Fantasy Draft. If you are a viewer on this video right now and you are not a part of the Sharp Sports Network NFL members only group, I want to offer something pretty incredible here. We are going to be offering this for this week and this week only. Our NFL pass is valued at $100. So all you have to do is go ahead and sign up on Fantasy Draft, deposit the minimum amount of $10, and use the promo code Sharp Sports without any caps at checkout when you're depositing, and you'll be entered in to this promotion that we have. All you have to do is just send us a screenshot of you using the code and depositing over to our Twitter at SharpSportsNet. You will go ahead and receive a free NFL season pass and Fantasy Draft NBA content on our website. All you have to do is just send us a screenshot, and we will go ahead and get you set up. This is a super incredible offer. You're definitely going to want to be a part of this, especially with how incredibly insane we've been at killing these showdown slates and main slates. I'm going to want to get you into that private Discord chat and all of the private live streams where we, down to crunch time, lineup lock, we absolutely crush this breakdown with the private members. So please take advantage of that offer. All you got to do is just, like I said, sign up, use promo code Sharp Sports, no caps, deposit $10. Send me, Taylor, or the company Twitter a screenshot of you doing that, and we'll get you set up. So let's dive into this slate. Got a jam-packed slate here. I think this is by far my favorite slate so far because the lineups just work so beautifully together. Before we do that, I want to jump over to NFL Savant here, where we can kind of get a feel for where the ball is going on these respective teams as far as targets. George Kittle by far leads San Francisco by double targets from Deebo Samuel. So George Kittle 54 targets this season. So far, so good. 4 touchdowns for him. He plays on 30% of he gets 30% target share. Red zone targets, same thing. They're really looking his way. And then on the rushes, Matt Breida started off the year pretty hot, but Tevin Coleman has soon become a workhorse so far this season. So that's something to really keep a lookout for on this slate. So let's jump over here to the Cardinals, where we're going to see something a little bit different. Larry Fitzgerald leading the team so far in targets with Christian Kirk right behind him, and then David Johnson. Now the rushing is where we're going to really have to get into a little bit more breakdown here on the Cardinals. So before I do that, I want to just give a brief look of last week for both of these teams, just so we can kind of see where the ball went last week, because the 49ers put up 50 points and the Cardinals briefly had a little bit of a spell. This is kind of where the targets went last week. Christian Kirk had 11 targets and Larry Fitzgerald only had 4. Christian Kirk is going to be in the slot most of the time, and Patrick Peterson on the 49ers does not defend the slot more than 6% of the time this year so far. So I really want to take advantage of targeting Christian Kirk here today, because I think he's going to be the most effective person on the Cardinals so far, at least through this game. Larry Fitzgerald, I don't see getting too many touches, especially being guarded by Patrick Peterson. So on just to go over ahead and look on the 49ers last week, George Kittle with 8 targets and Emmanuel Sanders with 5. Emmanuel Sanders and George Kittle each had a touchdown, as well as Tevin Coleman. Tevin Coleman went off for 4 touchdowns. So bringing back over here to DraftKings, I don't expect Tevin Coleman to do the exact same thing he did last week. It's very, very uncharacteristic of somebody like that. A few things that I do want to mention: the 49ers defense have only allowed 11.5 fantasy points to quarterbacks over the last month. Like total, not per person, like total. They have only allowed 13 points scored as well, and they are the league leader in adjusted sack rate, which is pretty interesting. And not to mention the Arizona Cardinals have the league lowest offensive line as far as stopping sacks. So this is a similar situation to the past 3 showdown slates we've had. We had the Patriots on there, we had Pittsburgh, and then we had the Vikings as well, where we just really stacked one side, and that's exactly what I want to do today. I think San Francisco is going to blow them out of the water. Arizona is a very volatile team, and I think that with all the weapons they have, Richard Sherman, Patrick Peterson, I really think this is just going to be a really tough spot for Arizona to really get the ball moving. They're going to be relying on their run game, which is what really brings me to my next topic here is all the injuries on the slate. David Johnson is listed as questionable, and Chase Edmonds has since been ruled out. David Johnson has been limited, and he's questionable, and I assume even if he does play, he hasn't played for the past 2 weeks, so I don't really think David Johnson is going to be in any sort of position to play. Chase Edmonds is already out, and Arizona went up and picked up Kenyon Drake over the weekend from the Dolphins. So Kenyon Drake is projected to be the workhorse back of the team with Zach Zenner behind him and then Albert Morris. I have no interest in this at all. If we just go ahead and take a look, number 11 rushing defense and the number 1 passing defense, they only allow 128 yards per game for passing and only 95 rushing yards, and they have only allowed 9.9 points per game, and they have the number 1 ranked defense right now, assuming they're just neck and neck with the Patriots. But what we've noticed on these showdown slates is that defenses are really just highlighted here. They're really just finding a way to get their points. Their prices are so high, and we've really noticed that on these slates especially, that you really need a touchdown to pay off that price tag, and it seems like they're paying off that price tag every time. So Arizona run game is going to be all over the place. I don't want any part of it, especially with how good the defense is on the San Francisco 49ers. Another thing that I want to look at here is on the side of the 49ers. Matt Breida is currently listed as questionable. He did not practice today. So on a short week, he didn't practice Monday or Tuesday. I expect Breida to sit. Same thing with Raheem Mostert. He did not practice yesterday or today. I expect that he sits as well, which in turn makes Tevin Coleman the highlight of the slate. He's going to be by far the most chalky player on the slate and the highest owned. And that brings me to why I want him in my captain spot. I think he's going to be the best captain play, and to me, he's not too overpriced at captain at 13.5. The next thing I want to look at here is San Francisco's offense as a whole. George Kittle is going to be a vital play, and I expect him to be extremely chalky. So far, throughout 8 weeks this year, each week, Arizona has led up a touchdown to tight ends. Multiple out of the 8 weeks, 5 weeks, the tight ends had over 100 yards, and 3 of those 8 weeks, the tight ends had 2 touchdowns. So I really want to target George Kittle here. He makes sense at captain, but I think that Tevin Coleman, once they get up, is just going to really garner all the usage once they get a lead on Arizona, and Arizona's going to just be trying to fire from behind. I think that George Kittle makes sense as a flex, but Tevin Coleman makes sense the most at captain. Now, I don't mind interchanging them. I'll definitely have lineups with Kittle at captain, and I'll definitely have a lot of lineups with Coleman at captain. So from here, you're left with 6.8K. I built a couple lineups here, and I think that this is a lineup that really works the best for me. As far as the quarterbacks, I think Jimmy G makes the most sense. He hasn't really had a ceiling game yet. His floor is probably around 10 to 15 fantasy points. But on this slate, if you don't have the quarterback that's throwing to that respective receiver, I think you're going to be hindering yourself, especially in cash games. So Jimmy G makes a lot of sense, leaving you 5.6K left per player. Now, this brings me to kind of where I want to go next as far as 49ers players. I really want to target the 49ers defense here today. I think that they just are going to just obliterate Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray is not in any way, shape, or form ready for what's to come to him. He had 2 back-to-back duds, and I think there's going to be another one today. San Francisco 49ers and the coaches have really just outlined that they want Jimmy G to just not turn the ball over. Just play the pace of the game, run the ball, not turn the ball over, and just rely on the defense. So I really think the defense is going to be a focal point of this lineup. You can play them at captain, but Coleman just for me flashes more upside at captain with how much of a workhorse they're actually making him play. So that leaves 2 players left, and we have to have an Arizona player in there. And for me, it's got to be Christian Kirk. Just leading the team last week in targets, just obviously Kyler Murray's favorite guy. Finally getting him back, he's going to play a majority of the slot receiving time. So I'm really excited to see him cross over the middle and have Kyler Murray hit him on a couple passes. I think Kirk is going to benefit the most. And that leaves about 2,300 left. So this lineup is punting 1 player. And for a right reason, he actually is the best value on the slate for me because I'm assuming that Morstay and Breida are sitting. So Jeff Wilson at 2K becomes an elite value play. We saw what happened at the start of this year when Breida and Mostert weren't playing as much and he was receiving multiple touches. He received plenty of goal line work, which is where I think that he's going to shine the most, getting some of those goal line touchdowns. He had 4 touchdowns in 2 games to start the year. So I really think that, getting some of that run when he is the only backup back, I think is going to really just make a lot of sense plugging him in. So far, this build has really just made me enjoy the lineup build so far. I think this is making the most sense. Tevin Coleman at captain, Kittle, Garoppolo, Kirk, and Wilson, and the 49ers defense. I think that my core of 4 with Coleman, Kittle, Garoppolo, and the defense is a must. I think it's a must. The last 2 plays are interchangeable. You could drop Kirk down, play Fitzgerald, and get more money and get a kicker. You could drop Kirk down, play Drake if you wanted to. You get $2,500 left. After that, you could play the Cardinals D. You could play Alfred Morris. You can play a bunch of players. You don't have to play Kirk, but for me, the top Arizona Cardinals player is going to be Christian Kirk for me today. Now, over on FanDuel, the thing is, it's pretty much the same. I still want Tevin Coleman at captain. I still want Jimmy G, and I still want Kittle. Those 3 have to stay the same. There's no defenses over here on FanDuel. So for me, if you go ahead and you play Christian Kirk, you're left with 5.5K, and you can get Jeff Wilson. You can get the exact same lineup. Nothing changes. You can even get Dante Pettis over here on FanDuel at 5.5K, who doesn't flash as much upside as Jeff Wilson does if those 2 running backs miss. Like I said, this is a first look video. We're not sure yet, but just my gut feeling, if you're not playing Monday and you're not playing Tuesday, you're not practicing those 2 days, you're not going to be ready for game time on Thursday. And the short week injuries, we don't want to risk it. So Jeff Wilson getting some run makes a lot of sense. I think Tevin Coleman would definitely garner about 80% of the snaps, but that 20% could definitely pay off his 5K price tag. All we need is 5 fantasy points from him to really pay off that tag on DraftKings and FanDuel. So with this being said, this would be my go-to lineup, to be honest, for lock. As far as cash games, you could, like I said, the only change that I would make is just switching out Kittle for Coleman on both sides. Both lineups work on both sides, just switching out Kittle and Coleman. I think that makes a lot of sense. Kyler Murray here is way too overpriced. David Johnson, I don't expect playing. Kenyon Drake, again, overpriced over here. Now, a lot of people are going to want to play Emmanuel Sanders. To me, Emmanuel Sanders is a touchdown-reliant guy. If he's not scoring, he's not going to get yardage. Jimmy G doesn't throw that much. He's only had 1 game in the past 5 with over 200 yards passing. They're just running it. They're bullying the ball, which makes me love a 2 running back stack here with Coleman and Wilson. I think it makes a lot of sense. So, with that being said, hope everybody has enjoyed this breakdown. And everybody has some good luck tomorrow. If you're a member, stay active in the Discord. There's going to be a private live stream tomorrow as well as a cheat sheet and a write-up. So stay tuned for that. Good luck to everybody tomorrow. Hopefully you all take advantage of that fantasy draft promo that we're running. And you can go ahead and get into the chat tomorrow and become a member of the private live stream and make sure that you're cashing tomorrow in this Showdown slate. So with that being said, appreciate all the support. See you on Friday for the main slate video that will be out early Friday afternoon. So with that being said, peace.